How's it going, everyone? This is Kevin. Today I want to bring along with me to see if we can just shoot with the Sony A7 IV picture profiles to not do any editing. So let's jump right into it. So when it comes down to a lot of the picture profiles in the Sony line of cameras, most people tend to shoot into the SLog kind of footage, whether it's the SLog 3 or the S-Cinetone. Today I wanted to test out to do an actual picture profile within the Sony A7 IV, kind of using whatever it has on there to accommodate to what I think would look kind of cool, and see if I could just use this when it comes down to shooting just a video out and about. Now, this isn't my typical way of shooting videos, but I want to see how well it could be to technically shoot some videos into just with a picture profile if you want to be on the go. I mean, most people tend to use the S-Cinetone anyway because it has some really good colors, but wanted to test these out to see if they're really worth it or if it's just something you probably shouldn't mess with at all. So how are the colors going so far? I'm using the FL picture profile whenever you kind of can set it up, and did some minor adjustments with it just to try to get something maybe hopefully cool. Just gonna be, walking around videoing things to show you what the picture profile can do, since it's technically in the no picture profile, and then I use I guess the color effect or whatever it's called to be able to get it to this where it's just baked in, which sadly you get less dynamic range, but it's still pretty good to use if you're just wanting to do a quick little video. Well, so far I think the footage looks kind of cool. Is it something that I would normally use every single day? Probably not, because, well, in reality, I want the dynamic range so that I can get the most out of my camera. There's a reason why I like to have the 10-bit color when it comes down to that, with basically just having the SLog 3 footage that I usually like to use also for color grading. But a little test right here, a little, I guess, experiment, if you will, to test out the picture profiles that you can do within the Sony A7 IV and just kind of do the different color ranges and everything like that. But just wanted to test this one out today, and I think it's kind of cool because if you're really not wanting to color grade or you're not feeling the most ideal to color grade, this is a good alternative to have. But yeah, so far it's been really cool to just get some footage and just kind of just go ahead and let the colors be by just using the camera's profile, basically footage. Even though it's ingrained in the camera, basically like the video itself, it's still pretty cool in my honest opinion, because it just lets you create videos without even having to worry so much about the color or anything like that you have to do much in post. Maybe do some minor tweaking here and there, but for me it's still something kind of different because I'm so used to doing with the SLog 3, so having to properly expose everything so that you don't lose as much because you have to give up one or the other because you don't have that dynamic range is just the issue. But yeah, that's been so far with the footage that you can see that we've been shooting here today whilst we enjoy our walk out here. But as we keep using this profile, I'm just gonna go ahead and talk with you guys, because that way you can see just the footage itself, how it would be like if you're trying to vlog or anything like that. But how's your guys' creation? Have you done any cool photo shoots lately? Let me know in the comments below some of the exciting projects that you're working on. We'd love to know more about what you're up to, since obviously most of the time it's just me talking here and we have to be able to communicate, create that community. So let me know down below what you've been up to. Share some stuff on Instagram if you follow me already or not, maybe Twitter, and we can see some of that nice work that you have going on. Make new friends down there below. So yeah, that's the main goal when it comes down to doing this photography stuff. This is the stuff that I enjoy myself just to create, make sure these videos are building any community that we can, and making sure that people that have questions might be able to get some answers. So that's one of the reasons why we're doing this video with the picture profiles of the Sony A7 IV, and yeah, it's been good so far. So when it comes down to profiles of baked into the footage of your Sony A7 IV, when should you use these kind of videos, or when should you use the SLog? So SLog is something that you want to use whenever you want to have more dynamic range. That's the main issue with this type of setup, is you lose a lot of that quality because it's baked into the footage itself. So you're not getting that much of that dynamic range. The SLog footage, you get to have those highlights and shadows to kind of be able to recover a little bit more to have the dynamic range. When it comes down to the baked in profiles, well, you don't. So when should you use it? So for example, right now I'm shooting with the profile footage like how I said I was going to be doing, and right now we have the nice sky behind me. So if I try to expose for the sky, that's how it looks. If I want to expose from my face so I can see myself a little bit better, that's how it looks. So you don't get that dynamic range as much as possible as you could do with, you know, the SLog footage. So if it were me and I'm going to be shooting with the picture profiles whenever that's the case, I would probably do it with a more controlled environment, whether it's inside or, you know, with lighting that I can control, or maybe the sun isn't so harsh that day and I can get as much of it as in focus of like lighting together. That's what I would do. But otherwise, I would just try to learn how to use SLog footage when it comes to being outside to get the most dynamic range. So that's when you should use it and probably when not to, but that's just my personal opinion. So what do you think about the profile pictures, just using it as your main just source of color grading within the camera? Is it something that you would use personally, or is it something that you prefer to more have the SLog because you want to have that dynamic range, or maybe the S-Cinetone is better for you? That's something that I'm curious to know what would be more ideal. I know most people tend to shoot whenever they use these type of cameras for more the SLog for, you know, the dynamic range, but a lot of people are not feeling so comfortable with shooting SLog because of all the color grading that you have to do and become a lot better at if you're wanting to properly, you know, edit. Some people like to use the S-Cinetone because it has some nice, cool, cinematic kind of colors, if you will. So that's something that I've kind of tried to use before, and it's fine. It's not something that I would use all the time, but I do have a setting on my camera on the A7 IV that I've been trying to use more, so that if I want to have a quick little vlogging setup that has like almost everything automatically, so I can just go ahead and shoot and not to worry about too much of like having the perfect settings every time. That's something that I'm trying to get into slowly but surely to see if it's something that I'll actually use long term. But other than that, I think using these picture profiles can be cool for a certain kind of aspect if you're not feeling comfortable with the color grading when it comes down to the S-Log kind of type of footage, if you don't know how to color grade. But other than that, not something that I would probably use all the time, because the dynamic range is very important to me when it comes down to these videos, because it just looks nicer to me, it looks more professional, and if you know how to use it correctly, it's going to be wonderful. So my opinion when it comes down to it is actually just learn S-Log and get that dynamic range out of your expensive camera. I think you're probably going to use it a lot better, and it'll be such a more useful skill to have than using the baked-in profiles that you can get on the Sony A7 IV. Do I think they're great? Yes, it's pretty cool that you can do that for something kind of quick. Maybe it's a social media project for somebody that you don't have the budget because they aren't paying you enough to go ahead and basically do all the color grading, and you want to do a fast turnaround, then go ahead and do that. That's something that could be very beneficial. I think I would use that myself when it comes down to projects like that, but long term, I would prefer to know how to color grade a lot better. And even myself, I'm still getting better at it as much as I can every single time that I do my videos. So that's just something that I would recommend you doing. But this is basically just a little test to see how well it would hold up outside, especially because of the dynamic range. That's the main issue for me when it comes down to these profiles. So go ahead and get your skills up when it comes down to color grading, or use the picture profiles here within the camera. I mean, these cameras are pretty great, so I think you'll be fine, but that's just my 2 cents when it comes down to the picture profile. So hopefully it'll help you out when seeing if they are good enough to just use for your everyday videos. But with all that said and done, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to like and subscribe, share this video with a friend. I'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya.